My wife cheated on me with her boss, then stole $250, $0 of our savings and forged my signature to claim the house. Now she's suing me for half of everything I own, and I have no idea how it all went so wrong. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here writing about how my wife turned out to be a complete nightmare. Honestly, I thought we had a good thing going. We were married for 7 years, and in that time, I believed we'd built a life based on trust and mutual respect. We had a decent house, a couple of cars, and enough savings to get by. I worked my ass off as a project manager at a construction firm, and well, she was always busy with her job as a marketing exec. She was smart, funny, and often the life of any party. But beneath all that, I started noticing little things. Odd texts, late nights she'd claim were work-related, secretive phone calls I wasn't supposed to hear. At first, I told myself I was paranoid. Maybe I was overthinking it. But then, things started to add up. One day, I came home early from work because I wasn't feeling well. I decided to surprise with dinner. I walked into the house and immediately felt something was off. The lights were dim and there was a strange scent in the air, something floral mixed with a faint scent of perfume I didn't recognize. I called out her name and I got no answer. That's when I saw her. Was in the bedroom, half-dressed, tangled in sheets with her phone in her hand. She quickly tried to hide it when she saw me. Her face went pale and she stammered some excuse about a work call. But I saw the texts. Clear as day, there were messages between her and her boss, Mark, talking about meeting up after hours. For work, she said, but I knew better. My stomach sank. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I grabbed her phone and there it was, more than a dozen. Texts flirtatious, intimate, almost desperate. Mark was promising her promotions, telling her she deserved better than her current job, and she replied with flirty comments that made me sick. I looked up at her and her face was a mask of guilt and annoyance, like I was ruining her fun. She tried to brush it off, saying I was overreacting, that Mark was just a boss who was helping her with her career. She told me I was being paranoid, that she loved me, and that this was all just a misunderstanding, but I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing. I felt betrayed, angry, and stupid for not seeing the signs sooner. How could she do this? How could she lie to my face for months? I had trusted her, and now I felt like I didn't even know her. The worst part was the realization that this wasn't just about the affair. It was about the money too. I started digging through our bank accounts, and that's when I found it. Over the past 6 months had been siphoning money from our savings. Small amounts at first, but then larger sums, $10, $20, $0 here and there. I never suspected because she always had an excuse. We're saving for a trip, or I needed to buy something for the house. But the truth was, she was stealing from us to fund her affair, I'm pretty sure. The final blow hit me when I found out she had forged my signature to claim ownership of the house. I confronted her again, furious, demanding answers. She just shrugged and said she was tired of waiting around for me to get my act together, that she deserved more than a guy who was too busy working to notice her. That's when she told me she was planning to leave, that she had a new life lined up with Mark, and she was taking everything she could. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All the years, all the trust, gone in an instant. I didn't even recognize the woman I married. The woman I loved had turned into this manipulative, selfish, lying bitch. I don't even know how I got here, honestly. One minute I was planning our future, and the next, I was facing the collapse of everything I thought was real. I'm still trying to process it all. How someone I loved and trusted could do something so cruel. How she could steal our savings, lie, cheat, and then turn around and sue me for half of everything I own. It's like I'm living in a nightmare I can't wake up from. And the worst part, I don't even know what to do next. I feel so lost, so betrayed. And honestly, I'm just trying to figure out if I should fight her in court or just walk away and start over. After I confronted that night, everything changed. She was still acting like she was the victim, like I was the crazy one. She threw her hands up, saying she was tired of my accusations and that I was just jealous because she was successful and wanted more from her life. She insisted she loved me, but she deserved to be happy, to have what she wanted. That's when I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative bitch who was willing to burn everything down to get what she wanted. I was furious, but mostly I felt numb. How did I miss all this? How did I not see that the woman I married was capable of betraying me like this? The next few days were a blur. I started digging into her phone, her bank accounts, and anything I could find. I knew she was lying about her whereabouts, about her meetings with Mark, and I was going to find out exactly how deep her deception went. I also couldn't stop thinking about the money. $250, $0 stolen from our savings. How could she do that? Was she planning this for months? I had no idea she was capable of that level of treachery. I started to piece together how she'd been siphoning money little by little, always covering her tracks, always lying. Then I found out she'd forged my signature to claim ownership of our house. That was the final straw. I remembered signing some papers for refinancing or some minor thing, but I knew I hadn't authorized her to do anything that would transfer ownership. Turns out she had gone behind my back, forged my signature, and claimed the house as hers. I was stunned. How could she do this? How could she turn our home, the place I thought was our sanctuary, into her weapon against me? That's when I started to realize how deep her betrayal was. This wasn't just an affair. It was a full-blown attack on everything I had built. I decided I needed to see her face to face again to get some answers. I arranged to meet her at her office, knowing full well she'd try to spin her way out of it. When she saw me walk in, she looked annoyed, like I was bothering her. She tried to brush it off, saying I was overreacting, that Mark was just a boss helping her with her career, that she wasn't cheating, just working late. But I didn't buy one word. I pulled out the bank statements I'd found, the forged signatures and the texts. Her face drained of color. She stammered, tried to deny everything, but I had the proof. That's when she snapped. "You're just jealous. You're insecure. I don't need your permission to do what I want. I've earned this." That was it. I told her she was a liar and a thief. I told her I knew about the money, about the affair, about the house. I felt like I was losing my mind. How could someone I loved so much turn into this monster? I was furious, but I was also devastated. I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Now I saw her for what she really was, a selfish, manipulative woman who was willing to destroy everything just to get her way. The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. Instead, I just sat there, staring at her, thinking about all the years we'd shared, all the promises we'd made. And I wondered how I could ever trust anyone again. That confrontation didn't end with her admitting anything. She just doubled down, claiming I was overreacting, that I was insecure, that Mark was just a friend, and that I was crazy for accusing her of stealing and cheating. She told me I was just jealous of her success, that I wasn't supportive enough, that I didn't see her worth. I felt like I was losing my mind, hearing her lie so convincingly, knowing the truth was right there in front of me. I left her office that day with a pounding head and a sinking feeling in my chest. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with it. I had to take control of this disaster before it was too late. Over the next few days, I started calling attorneys, trying to figure out what my options were. I was stunned to find out she had already filed a lawsuit, claiming half of everything. Our house, our savings, everything I worked for. I couldn't believe she was doing this, that she was so ruthless. It was like she wanted to destroy me completely. I started to see that this wasn't just about her cheating. She was trying to wipe me out financially, emotionally, everything. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. I needed to fight back, but I also knew this was going to cost me more than I could imagine. I never thought I'd be in this position, but I realized I had to protect what was left of my life, my dignity, and my future. After I got the legal notices and the full scope of her plans, I knew I couldn't just sit back and let her take everything. Was relentless. She was already spinning stories to her friends, claiming I was some kind of jealous, controlling husband who was trying to ruin her. She painted herself as the victim, as if I was the one cheating and stealing. Meanwhile, she had already moved out of the house with some of the money, leaving me to pick up the pieces. I felt like I was drowning, but I also knew I had to get my head straight and figure out a plan. I started digging into her financial records, trying to understand exactly how much she had taken and how she managed to forge my signature on the house papers. It turned out she had been working with a crooked notary she convinced to help her forge my signature. The house was worth about $500, $0, and she had already transferred it into her name. I couldn't believe she was so brazen. She'd planned this for months, maybe longer. She had drained our savings, stolen our house, and now she was trying to make me look like the bad guy. I felt so betrayed, so furious, like I'd been hit by a freight train. I also uncovered that she'd been having an affair with Mark, her boss, for over a year. I found texts and emails between them where they talked about their plans to be together, how they were going to start fresh after she left me. I felt sick reading those messages. It was like everything I believed about our marriage was a lie. I couldn't wrap my head around how she could do this to me, to our life, to everything we built. I kept thinking about the money, our savings, the house, all gone because she wanted a new life with her lover. I was so angry I couldn't see straight. I knew I needed help. I reached out to a lawyer who specialized in family and property law. His name was David, and he told me I had a fight on my hands, had forged my signature on the house documents, which was a serious crime. He explained I could sue her for fraud and reclaim the house, but it wouldn't be easy. The court would need proof of her deception, and I had plenty of that. I also needed to get a restraining order to keep her from selling or transferring anything else without my approval. It was a mess, but I was determined to fight for what was mine. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything she took. In the meantime, I also started to gather evidence of her affair and her financial misconduct. I took screenshots of the texts, printed out the emails, and made copies of the bank statements. I knew that if this went to court, I'd need a solid case. I also contacted a private investigator who specialized in infidelity cases. Within a week, I had enough proof to show that was more than just a cheating wife. She was a criminal, a thief, and a liar. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but I realized I had to face the truth head-on. I couldn't let her destroy me or get away with what she'd done. The hardest part was dealing with the emotional fallout. I felt crushed, humiliated, and angry all at once. Every time I thought about her lying, cheating, stealing, I wanted to break something. I felt like I was losing my mind. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I let her get away with this for so long. I thought I knew her, but she turned out to be someone entirely different, someone capable of betrayal on a scale I never imagined. I didn't know how to move forward, whether I should try to reconcile or just cut my losses and walk away. The truth was, I was terrified of what was coming next, but I knew I had to stand up for myself. I owed it to myself to fight for what was rightfully mine, no matter how much it hurt. The legal battle was only beginning, and honestly, I felt like I was fighting a losing war. Had already lawyered up, and her attorney was doing everything possible to minimize her guilt while painting me as the unreasonable, jealous husband. She was claiming I was abusive, controlling, and that I was trying to sabotage her career because I was insecure. It was all lies, but that didn't matter in court. She knew how to spin her story. Meanwhile, she was busy trying to sell the house behind my back, even though we had a court order to freeze all assets related to the property. Every day, I woke up feeling more drained. I had to deal with her lies, her lawyers, and the constant fear of losing everything I had worked for. I started to question myself. Was I overreacting? Did I miss the signs? Was I just too blind to see how much she hated me? But deep down, I knew the truth. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. I found emails where she discussed her plans with Mark, talking about how she would leave me, take the house, and start fresh. She even mentioned how she'd finally be free once she got her hands on my money and property. The most shocking revelation came when I discovered she had been secretly withdrawing money from our joint account, over $250, $0, without my knowledge. She told me she was investing, but I knew better. She was funneling the money into accounts I didn't have access to, probably to hide her tracks. I felt sick reading those transactions. It wasn't just betrayal, it was outright theft. I started to see her as nothing more than a con artist, a manipulator who was willing to destroy everything we built for her own selfish gain. I also learned that she had already hired a lawyer to prepare the paperwork to claim half of everything: our house, our savings, our future. She was planning to cut me out entirely. I couldn't believe how cold and calculating she had become. It was like she was willing to burn down our entire life just to get what she wanted. That realization made me even more determined to fight back, no matter what it took. I knew I had to protect what was left of my life and my reputation. In the middle of all this chaos, I decided I couldn't keep going alone. I reached out to a close friend, Mike, who had been through a rough divorce himself. He told me to gather all evidence I could: texts, bank statements, anything that proved her guilt, and to stay calm. He also warned me that was a master manipulator and that I shouldn't trust her or her lawyers. That advice stuck with me. I started staying up late, going through every document, every message, trying to build a case that would prove her deception beyond a shadow of a doubt. One night I decided to confront her again, this time over the phone. I told her I knew everything. I told her I had the evidence, that I was going to fight for my rights, and that she wouldn't get away with stealing from me. Her reply was cold. "You're just jealous, you're insecure, I don't need you anymore. Mark and I are done waiting for you to grow up. You're a nobody and I'm finally free." Hearing her say that made my blood boil. I realized that she had no remorse, no shame, only greed and selfishness. I had to get out of this mess and protect what little was left of my dignity. Looking back now, I see how naive I was. I thought love and trust could conquer anything. I thought loved me, but it was all just a lie. Her betrayal has changed me forever. I don't recognize the woman I married anymore. And the worst part, I don't know if I'll ever truly recover from this. But I do know one thing: I won't let her walk away with everything. I will fight for my rights, for my sanity, and for my future. Because at the end of the day, you only get one shot at this life, and I refuse to let her steal mine. The court hearings were intense. Lawyers tried every trick in the book to discredit me, claiming I was an unstable, jealous husband who was just trying to sabotage her career. She trying to paint herself as the victim, saying she was only exploring her options and that her affair with Mark was just a mistake. But I had all the evidence: the bank transactions, the forged signatures, the texts, the emails. I handed everything over to my lawyer, David, and he hammered her with it during the hearings. Seeing her on the stand was surreal. Her bitchy attitude, her fake tears, her constant denial. She looked like she was acting, and I knew she was. I could see right through her. I was furious, but I stayed calm. I knew I had to be strategic. I told the court about the $250, $0 she stole, how she forged my signature, and how she was trying to take our house unfairly. I explained how she had been planning this for months, maybe longer, and how her affair with Mark was just the icing on the cake. The judge seemed to see through her lies. After days of testimony, it was clear she was guilty of fraud, theft, and betrayal. The court ordered her to return the stolen money, and I got full custody of the house, which was a huge relief. But the fight wasn't over. Was still trying to appeal, still claiming she deserved half of everything. She even hired a new lawyer trying to drag this out. I felt exhausted, drained, but also victorious in a way. I had finally taken a stand. However, the aftermath was far from simple. Actions had left me emotionally shattered. I couldn't trust anyone anymore, not even myself. I was haunted by the memories of her lies, her cheating, and her greed. I had to rebuild my life from the ground up. I moved out of the house and into a small apartment, trying to start fresh. I blocked her on every social media platform, and I avoided places I knew she might be. I also hired a therapist to help me process everything. The betrayal ran so deep that I sometimes wondered if I'd ever feel normal again. Financially, I was battered but relieved. I managed to recover most of the stolen money through the court, but it took months of legal battles. The house was a fresh start, but it also reminded me of everything I'd lost. I felt angry at myself for trusting her, angry at her for doing this to me, and angry that I had been so blind. Still, I knew I had to move forward. I couldn't let her destroy me completely. I kept telling myself that I deserved better, a life free of lies and betrayal. Looking back, I realize how much I've grown through this nightmare. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you can turn out to be your worst enemies. I learned that trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. Most of all, I learned that I am stronger than I thought. I don't regret fighting for what's right, even if it meant losing a lot along the way. If there's one thing I want others to take from this, it's that you have to stand up for yourself. Don't let anyone steal your happiness or your future, because in the end, the truth always finds a way to come out, and you have to be ready to face it, no matter how painful it is. Now that everything's settled, I spend a lot of time reflecting on how it all went down. I won't lie. There are days I still wake up feeling angry or betrayed, and I sometimes wonder if I'll ever fully trust anyone again. But I also realize that I've come out of this stronger, more cautious, and more aware of what real trust means. Betrayal taught me a hard lesson. Never take anything for granted, especially not the people you love. You think you know someone, but sometimes the person you trust the most is capable of destroying everything you've built in an instant. Looking back, I see how naive I was. I believed in her, believed in us, and I never thought she'd go so far to betray me. I was by her lies, her manipulation, and her greed. But in a strange way, I'm grateful for that wake-up call. It forced me to look at what I want in life: truth, honesty, and integrity, and to recognize the importance of protecting myself from people who only want to take from me. The experience has changed my perspective on relationships forever. I've learned that love isn't enough if it's not backed by honesty and respect. I've also learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away. No matter how much you love someone, if they show you who they really are, selfish, manipulative, dishonest, you have to believe them. And you have to prioritize your own well-being over trying to fix something that's already broken. I've started rebuilding my life piece by piece. I've gotten a good job, started saving again, and most importantly, I've learned to trust myself. I know now to be more cautious, to pay attention to the red flags, and to never ignore my instincts. I've also realized that I'm not alone. I have friends and family who support me, and I've found a new sense of independence I never knew I had. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: don't let betrayal define you. Yes, it hurts like hell, and yes, it leaves scars. But in the end, you have the power to move forward, to rebuild, and to find happiness again. Trust is fragile, but your strength is. I've learned that the hard way. And now, I know that I'm capable of surviving even the worst betrayals, because I've already survived the worst.